Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. Hope you enjoyed tonight's opening. Hope your day's been going well. Hope everything is going swimmingly in your life. It should be. The world's a little brighter. Still a little brighter. I feel like I'm going to be saying that every day for the next 4 years, God willing. Hopefully. That'd be amazing. That would be amazing. Anyhow, late as anticipated and shameful. That's not cool. That's not cool. That's very hurtful. That's very hurtful. All right. What do I have for you? What do I have for you? I got a bunch of stories for you. First, as we allow people to sort of drift on in here. Because we got a couple people who drift on in here. There's some heartwarming stories for you. Here's this woman. She's very excited about Donald Trump. And it's something I hadn't even really considered. I hadn't even considered just day-to-day life. I'm surprised that she's noticing an impact in her community already. That's what she says. I don't know. I don't question her truth. I didn't see that. No, I didn't see Code Pink. No, I didn't see that. I don't even know what maybe you'll send me a DM on that. I'm not sure what we were referencing there. But here we go. This woman here is noticing a distinct difference in the neighborhood already. Check her out.
I just got to say something, y'all. I just went to the fucking store, y'all. I'm sick as a dog. I could not breathe last night. My nose fucking stopped up. Like, I swear to God, I thought I was gonna fucking die last night because this motherfucking nose would not let me breathe. I said I had to go get me some Vicks. Y'all, this motherfucker ain't even hit office yet. This nigga done cleared New York streets. Ain't not one motherfucking immigrant outside. I went out my motherfucking front.
She's saying they're running and hiding. They're ready in hiding.
Front door. You know, I got 2 autistic kids. They have not been wanting to go outside since we moved to New York last year because of the loud noises and all those immigrants standing outside by the stores, the houses. You see black and white people and, a lot of, Mexicans in home or going to businesses, working and shopping, doing what they need to do. But a lot of these other illegal immigrants, they just stand outside all fucking day. Like, I see a change. Like, it's so quiet outside. Them motherfucking man that hit the White House. When I say I'm keeping this nigga in the motherfucking White House, yes, sir. I can go out my front door now, go to the store. I ain't gotta wait in no damn line no more. I ain't gotta see them people pull out their EBT and got more food stamps than me, looking at me like they better than me. Bro, what I'm excited about is why the fuck Trump get in the office and got them niggas scared. But when I'm walking outside, I'm like, the fucking subways is clear. Ain't nobody but black and white. We like, hi, how you doing? We can actually see each other. We can actually breathe. We can actually talk to each other. We ain't got no fucking immigrants that's on our back. Like, usually, this is New York. I'm walking up the steps on the platform to get to the subway. I got people right here and right here, neck to neck, touching on me. Now it's like, a fresh breath, because ain't nobody beside me but my peoples. Oh, yes. When I say I'm loving this Donald Trump, I am so loving this. I got in and out this grocery store like it was nothing. I got my little couple items. Had to play cash.
I'm just going to ask you all. Be honest. Does it sound a little racist? I'm just asking. Is it the crowding? Does it sound a little racist? I was like, listening to this. I was like, okay. I understand what she's saying in the sense that, like, it's less crowded and less noisy. That's definitely crowded noise is too much. Crowded noise being a nuisance is something that I think all of us can relate to how that feels. Just say a little bit.
Donald Trump, I hope he's giving us some EBT. You know what I'm saying? Since the migrants gone, because I want to get some EBT food stamps too. And the people, for people who get the EBT, I think they need more, because you can give these migrants so much more. And we've been like struggling.
You set a standard, like, hey, we have all this money sitting around. We can just throw it away on 20 million people. You sort of set a standard for people who are struggling, saying, look, if that money's there, why can't we get it? Why can't we get it? Let's get rid of them and give it to us.
So what they had, you need to just get it to us. But yeah, y'all, it's not crowded outside. I'm telling you, a lot of autistic kids don't like all that noise, all that touching and that crowdness. This summer gonna be nice. Here in New York, we're gonna have a great summer. And from here on out, while this man in office, the summers are going to be awesome. I'm taking my kids outside. They ain't gotta be stuck in the house, cooped in the house, because so many immigrants outside. I'm gonna take them to ride a bike, skate. We're going to the park this summer, baby. We're gonna do it in this summer. It's gonna be nice. It's y'all. When I go outside, y'all, it's quiet. Quiet.
I don't think I was bothered by that also, but it's like okay, it's not like that's the main thrust of where she's going. But I understand what you're saying.
Loving it. Donald Trump, you that nigga. You is that nigga. It's quiet. And I'm happy. Oh, and for them immigrants, y'all hiding. But we got a new sheriff in town. And our sheriff is Mr. President Donald Trump. I voted for him. I sure did. Yep. And you can't hide. So I don't know where you disappeared at.
She said she did.
But y'all niggas can't hide. Because that man is coming for y'all asses. Y'all done tore up the fuck up New York. We got sanitation trucks out there cleaning and shit and all this. Y'all, I walked out this morning. It's so clean, nice. The air so crisp and clean. And stop arguing. So crisp and clean. Smells so...
Stop arguing.
Fucking good, y'all. It's good. And the white people, nicer. The black folks, like, hi, how you doing? They ain't got their nose stuck in the air, irritated because there's too many people outside.
See, she makes it about how crowded it is.
It's nice. Stop arguing. It's nice. Stop. If I have to say it again, I'm coming over there.
She means it.
But it is so nice. I'm loving it. I love it.
Oh my God.
Donald Trump. Baby, we're going to keep this like this. I can breathe outside, y'all. I can breathe.
I was like, I don't know what to make out of this video. But the impact is there already. Speaking of which, the impact being there already. Check this out.
Is a 74-year-old Trump supporter who lives in Palo Alto. He casually went about his business today, still sporting the red MAGA hat that prompted a loud confrontation with a woman at a Palo Alto Starbucks 2 days ago.
This crazy woman came over, started raving at me. She turned to the rest of Starbucks. Hey, everybody, here's this racist here. He's a Nazi and so forth.
The woman, Rebecca Parker
Rebecca Parker.
Then began
Rebecca Parker Mankey. It's one angry little Mankey. She went angry little Mankey.
Taking photos and posting about it on her Facebook, saying she was going to shame him, get him fired. Victor says she left, then came back and tried to rile the Starbucks crowd once more. In fact, the opposite happened. People started harassing Parker Mankey's family and her employer, Griffin Stringed Instruments, where she worked as an accountant.
It's a new day in town. It's a new day. It's a new day. Stop with your stupid harassment, you losers.
The store owner decided to fire her after he read her Facebook post.
No more monkey.
Consistent with our values.
No one answered the door at Parker Mankey's home.
She didn't want to discuss the issues with me. She wanted just to scream about Nazis and so on.
Victor wears a yarmulke underneath his MAGA hat. He is Jewish, and so to him, being called a Nazi is hurtful.
To be fair, I think anyone being called a Nazi doesn't take it as a compliment. Most people don't take it as a compliment. But yes, see, that's part of the change is that like people are like, wait, you guys are in the minority. You're in the minority. You're the losers. And it just, I think that's a part of not simply him winning, which definitely that alone would have done it. But the mandate from getting the popular vote, the mandate that arises from him getting the popular vote is basically America rising up and saying, "Nyeh, done with y'all. I want to hear from you. I want to hear you griping and grousing and all that other stuff. Y'all cray. Exactly, Joey. Y'all cray. All right. I got a bunch more stories I want to share with y'all. Bunch more stories. Probably gonna be a short show tonight, though. I'm not gonna kid you. Let's start with this, which was not billed, but Decision Desk headquarters is projecting the Republicans have retained the U.S. House majority. We keep talking about this. Most places, it's not official technically. No win is official until such time as it's declared by the state. None of these agencies which claim that, they're the official callers, whether it's AP, New York Times, Decision Desk, none of them actually make it so. They're just saying this is who we're expecting is going to win. And it's taken as if it's gospel by a lot of folks. But Decision Desk has called it for the Republicans, saying that they got at least 218. Data provider DDHQ projected on Monday that President-elect Donald Trump Republican Party had won a majority of the U.S. House of Representatives, which would signal Republicans will hold majority in both chambers of Congress. Edison Research has not yet projected House control. It was projected that Republicans will hold at least 214 seats, including two currently held by Democrats. Democrats holding at least 205, with 16 uncalled. Smallest House margin is 218. Republicans had already secured a U.S. Senate majority of at least 52. We're going to talk about that shortly. The fact that it's 52 and not at least 53 yet. Edison Research projected during his first presidential term in 2017-21, Trump's biggest achievement was sweeping tax cuts that are due to expire next week. Legislation and Democratic President Joe Biden's signature $1 trillion infrastructure law both came during periods when the parties controlled both chambers of Congress. So what this is basically telling us is that they have every opportunity when it comes to spending. It's the Republican world now. Again, if you want to get a law passed in this country, you need to have a majority in the House, and you need to get 60 senators on board. But if it's an appropriations bill, i.e. it's about money, you only need 50. Well, you need more than a majority. You need a simple majority, which they have in both, and you need signed off by the president. So right now, with whatever they want to do, whatever they end up doing with spending is 100% on the Republicans. So is ad block in your browser against YouTube rules, or do you not know what ad block is? I've tried it. I don't know. We may be. Pretty please give us an update on all the new Trump appointees. We'll go through it. It's not like there's a lot. It's not like there's a lot, but there's a handful. Not like us, more natural than most can admit. That's true. Anyhow, so it seems as if, according to DDHQ, Republicans control the House. By contrast, in the past 2 years, the divided government body had little success in passing legislation. Congress had struggled to perform its most basic function of providing the money needed to keep the government open. So there you go. There you go. No excuse for CRs anymore. No excuse for continuing resolutions. One of the big fights that we've seen in the House over the last couple of years in particular is House Freedom Caucus has basically been saying why we have a CR, continuing resolution. A continuing resolution is basically let's take the old budget, adjust it for inflation, and just keep it. Now, there's a lot of pork in that budget. They've been using CRs or continuing resolutions for the last 2 decades. And there's a lot of pork in there. There's a lot of, pet projects of $5 million for this and $3 million for that. And it adds up to many, many billions of dollars because every congressman who's basically set foot in Congress in the last 20 years has been like, hey, I need this also. So none of it's ever evaluated. Instead, they just rubber stamp right by the deadline saying, well, what are we going to do? We can't close down. What should we do? We don't know what to do. Okay, I guess we'll just continue last year's rather than actually doing the work that they're hired to do, i.e. going through your budget and setting your budget based on what your current needs are, which is what would be appropriate. Undoubtedly, they would save billions if they actually went through, if not over $1 trillion. They would save just an inordinate amount of money if they actually invested time looking at what we're wasting our money on. But no one bothers looking. So hopefully that will change. If not, we need to primary these folks out, which we probably need to do with the majority of the House members anyway. Joe, get with me on sending the ad block extension and coming to DC. I'll get you squared away, LOL. 2 years as a follower and digger. I've heard of you, Nathan. I've heard of you. Oh, 2 years. I know what you're saying. Remember, for 24 months, I'm going to give you one of the horns. I'll give you a horn for that. That's pretty damn cool. 2 years. Wow. 2 friggin' years. No, we're talking about the... do I think the CR is the motive for inflation? I think the fact that we don't have an actual budget is a major part of our inflation issues. Like we're outspending our taxable GDP. So what's happening? What's going to happen? That doesn't work. That doesn't work. So you print more money. When you print more money, that leads to inflation. I'm not sure if I understand your question beyond that though. So. Let's talk about Schumer because I was mentioned before how there's only 52 who have been recognized so far rather than 53 because there's still a fight going on with respect to what many people call, or he himself calls himself, what he calls himself, Senator Bob McCormick Senator-elect Bob McCormick out of Pennsylvania, who believes he's won his election that was conducted last week in Pennsylvania over incumbent, 3-time incumbent, 2-time, at least 2-time. Was it 3-time? I think 2-time incumbent Bob Casey. Bob Casey is not conceding it, and Chuck Schumer is taking Bob Casey's side, as we'll see.
So that he can hit the ground running on Inauguration Day. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Dana Perino.
Morning at home. Morning to you. Hope everybody had a grand weekend. I'm Bill Hemmer. Trump wants to fill his cabinet as quickly as possible, but his candidates will need Senate confirmation, and with Republicans in solid control, Trump wants a Senate leader that was ready to speed up the process by allowing recess appointments.
Right now, there are 3 contenders seeking the position of majority leader: Senators Rick Scott, John Cornyn, and John Thune.
They are fighting it out. One of the reasons I pulled this up here is because we'll hear from Kennedy also, who makes an interesting point about this 3-man race.
All 3 agreed to that recess demand. Senator Scott earlier saying he's on board.
If it's recess appointments, whatever it takes, we got to get these done. We know Schumer's going to slow everything down. I am all on board. The country voted. They want a change. They want the Trump agenda. They want his nominees. They want his policies. We've got to do everything we can to get that done.
Okay, so the action rules at Capitol Hill. Chad Pergram is front and center for it. Chad, good morning to you. Why are recess appointments so important?
Well, Bill, good morning. Recess appointments are not automatic. Under the Constitution, both the House and Senate must vote for the same adjournment resolution that permits the Senate to be out for more than 3 days. Now, Republicans are reviewing their leadership options. Few are tipping their hands.
We have to be able to work with President Trump and his administration so that we can move ahead with the big policies that we have to put in place in order to address the deep concerns that Americans have with government as it's been the last 4 years.
President-elect Trump is not endorsing a candidate, but his ally Elon Musk is backing Rick Scott. Musk called John Thune, quote, the top choice for Democrats. GOP senators have expectations of their next leader.
Here's what they better do. They better work hand in glove with President Trump. This is President Trump's Republican Party. The American people elected a new leader with a mandate.
This guy, Tim Scott, he whatever respect I had for him, I lost during the primaries. Totally lost all respect for him during the primaries. This guy is a war hawk, classic neocon, awful. So you watch him kiss the ring of Trump because now it's Trump's hour, but he's useless. These are things I had to explain to my dad over the weekend because he's such an old school Republican that he's like, he doesn't realize how the zeitgeist has changed. He still has the belief in the Republican Party. So he doesn't understand how they're all war hawks. And I think that his generation in particular are very tough to sort of awaken to just how the politics have changed from when, they were really following it in the 80s and 90s.
That means the next leader of the Senate needs to have his ear to the ground listening to President Trump.
Now, J.D. Vance can vote in the leadership election. He remains a senator. And incoming senators like Dave McCormick of Pennsylvania can also vote for leader, even though he's not allowed in the orientation meetings yet.
Yes, he's not allowed in the orientation meetings. I don't know what they do in these orientation meetings, but apparently there is such a thing as Senate orientation meetings.
Pennsylvania Democrat Bob Casey has not conceded his race.
I'm not going to talk about the pros and cons of the
Don't hear from me. You're about to hear from him.
different candidates here. But what I would say is I think the mandate's clear. They've all said that they'll be, in step with President Trump. And we have to be because we need this change. We can't be incremental.
It's about the math. The winner needs an outright majority of Senate Republicans voting. We expect 53 Republican senators next year, so 27 is the magic number. If no candidate gets 27, the top two vote getters proceed to a second ballot. Bill?
Okay, Chad, thanks. Going to lean on you. Get ready. Thank you, sir. Dana.
We have more on all this with Republican Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. With 53 senators, it's
Yesterday, I called out on Josh Hawley and John Kennedy that on the list that's going around on X that they reference him as voting for Cornyn. And I said, I don't know if this list is real or not. Someone actually pointed out that, kind of difficult to understand how they have McCormick on that list already. That sounds kind of weird. And I was like, that's a great point. That's a great point. And you wonder how anyone would be able to put together that list. But Senator John Kennedy is about to take it down. Take it down.
hard for me to imagine there would be many people that wouldn't be able to get confirmed and would need recess appointments, sir.
We're going to get President Trump's nominees confirmed. President Biden has some people, not all, but many of them, in important positions that frankly are meatheads, and we need to get them out of there and get President Trump's people in. And I don't anticipate that being a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think one particular senator would be a better leader in this Congress than another?
Well, there's an official looking document floating around the internet that supposedly says, here's how every Republican senator would vote, and here's who he or she would vote for Senate majority leader. And in an unprecedented act of selflessness, it has Senator Thune actually voting against himself and for Senator Cornyn. If you think this list is real or accurate, then you probably think that Elvis is alive and running a small bait stand on Lake Erie. We haven't even had a meeting yet to hear the formal proposal.
He's seen that on that list. It looks as if he's supporting Cornyn, and he's like, come on. I'm taking that as him saying that he's going to be supporting Rick Scott. I don't know why it is that they're down to these three people. I don't understand anything about this. I don't understand anything about why it is. This is playing right into. What am I drawing a blank? A turtle. Mitch McConnell's hands. Like, why? Why would he have any say in naming his successor? This is the stupidest thing in the world. Vice President Kamala Harris has no say in naming her successor as vice president. Why would McConnell have any say here, other than the fact that he's currently holding purse strings? This is the stupidest thing in the world. We see what a disaster he was in deciding who should be apportioned money, and basically he's going to say who the next treasurer of the Senate GOP is. It's ridiculous. He's going to have some sort of significant influence by having this secret ballot, which sounds as undemocratic as possible. Why can't they all be held accountable?
From the three nominees.
And that's why it's important to talk out on social media right now. Because while Senator John Kennedy is denying that list is real, and I'm sure he's telling the truth on that list is not real. What's good about that list is it's inspired people to come out screaming at their senators and basically screaming that out of those three, Rick Scott is the top choice. So with everyone, they're very well attuned to social media. You cannot be in politics right now without having a portion of your staff designated toward monitoring the chatter and the buzz as to what is trending on social media. So in that sense, that list, even if it's 100% inaccurate, and let's hope it is, but even if it's 100% inaccurate, the vitriol that it inspired, the idea that we might end up stuck with these two, with one of those two losers in Thune or Cornyn, that's an awesome thing. That's an amazing thing, because I think it likely will scare a lot of senators out of throwing their support behind those two and recognizing that, hey, whoever I vote for is likely going to end up leaked to the public at some point. Could happen. And if it's someone who's as unpopular as those two certainly are on social media, they certainly would be afraid of the ramifications of that, hopefully. So in that sense, that list being leaked, even if it is as accurate as Elvis working in a bait stand on Lake Erie, that's not the point. The point is the impact it has on the Senate, in that it inspired massive slapback from the public
about how, if at all, they will run things differently than Senator McConnell. Here's what I know. We will pick a leader who will advance President Trump's agenda. We saw what everybody else saw on Tuesday night. Despite what the so-called experts in Washington say, with their NPR tote bags and their organic broccoli, this was a really simple message from the people. Republicans aren't perfect, but the other side is crazy. And President Trump is going to do things differently, and we will pick a leader who will help him do that.
Okay.
Wanted to ask you about this because the Associated Press called the Senate race in Pennsylvania for Dave McCormick, the Republican. Chuck Schumer and Bob Casey are not accepting that. And Schumer said this, that with over 100,000 ballots left to be counted in Pennsylvania, the race has not been decided. As is custom, we will invite the winner once the votes are counted, which means that Dave McCormick won't be able to be there for the...
Unbelievable. Like, he's such a bastard. He's such a bastard. Chuck Schumer, petty Chuck Schumer.
orientation. What kind of game is Schumer playing here?
When I first read the article, Dana, my thought was clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Senator Schumer has a fatal attraction sometimes to nutty ideas, and this is one of those times. What he's doing is petty. I know he's disappointed in the election, but he needs to go file a hurt feelings report, and let's move on. Dave McCormick should be able to attend orientation.
Okay. Another topic.
That's what I wanted to get out of this. I think that covers enough for that report there. But so I do think that it's a good sign. It's a really good sign. You want to know? So Aaron was asking about who's been appointed so far. Can I give an update on the Trump appointees? I actually have an article here ready to address that very question. The Trump appointees so far. Let's see what we got. Al Jazeera reporting. Trump 2.0, who has U.S. President-elect picked for his new administration. All right. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has wasted little time in choosing officials to take up key roles in his coming administration. Days after his resounding election victory on November 5th, Trump has named a handful of advisors and political allies to serve in various posts, including White House Chief of Staff. Trump's early appointments have also touched on key portfolios, such as immigration. The Republican made a focal point of his 2024 election. So first he got Susie Wiles, which I already talked to you about her. She seems like a great choice off the bat. Then you got Tom Homan, who he named yesterday as his border czar. He specifically referenced him as a border czar, which was certainly a dig at Kamala Harris because there is no position border czar. But he specifically referred to him as a border czar late on Sunday, saying there's nobody better at policing and controlling our borders. The president-elect has also said that Homan, who served in Trump's first administration as the former head of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, will be in charge of carrying out all deportation of illegal aliens back to the country of origin. Trump has promised to carry out the largest deportation operation in U.S. history. And Homan has been widely criticized for defending Trump's zero-tolerance policy, which led to the separation of thousands. Oh, no. Separation of thousands, parents, children. You shouldn't have broken the law, which I tell you. No one told you to do that. In an interview with CBS News program 60 Minutes in late October, shortly before Trump won, Homan was asked, is there a way to carry out mass deportations without separating families? He said, of course there is. Families can be deported together. That's not the problem. We are fine with deporting the we don't want to keep your kids. You can take your kids with you. Next up was Elise Stefanik, U.S. Ambassador to the UN. My feelings on Stefanik are very parv. But the UN is kind of a waste of space anyway. So if you're gonna waste an appointment, seriously, ambassador to the UN. Even Nikki Haley did that well. Not a hard thing to do. It's a nice, prestigious job to give to someone who, honestly, I don't want to have a lot of say in our policy, because I do think she's a very big Trump supporter without always being very great on policies. So whenever it came to defending Trump anytime over the last 8 years, She's always been in his corner, which that's a nice thing to have, I guess, if you're Donald Trump. As far as her policies, but she's not overseeing our defense. You know, she's not. It's not like she's overseeing our budget. So I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this appointment. I'm not crazy about her. She's all right. But she served as Republican congressman for 10 years, took over as House Republican Conference chair in 2021 after they removed Liz Cheney. Stefanik was a central figure in a recent push in Congress to address claims of anti-Semitism on U.S. university campuses, something critics say was actually an effort to clamp down on criticism of Israel. It confirms Stefanik will be going to the UN at a time of heightened anxiety, and I guess in that capacity, she could be pretty good. When there's heightened anxiety over the incoming Trump administration's stance on the Russian war in Ukraine and Israel's war in Gaza and Lebanon continues to fuel fears of wider unrest in the Middle East. Reporting from Palm Beach, Mike Hanna noted Stefanik is known as a very strong opponent of the United Nations, and I guess that's good because if you're saying you should be an opponent of the United Nations because they suck. About support of Israel, it's going to cause some ructions within the whole body and certainly test U.S. relations with its international partners. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said that Stefanik will be an incredible ambassador. And that's what he's going to say because he's Donald Trump, so he's going to say that. Then we got Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Okay. I don't know much about Stephen Miller. He's someone who hides in the background. Maybe some of you even know more about him than I do. I know he's been around. He's been in the Trump circle since it seems like forever. It really seems like forever I've seen his face hanging around. While Trump has not formally announced Miller's appointment, Vice President J.D. Vance appeared to confirm the move on a post on X. He wrote about Miller being named to the post. Let's check out that post right now. Another fantastic pick by the president. Congrats, Stephen. Eric Darrow was reporting that Donald Trump selects Stephen Miller as his deputy chief of staff. He's known as a hardliner on immigration. That's certainly good. Former aide Mike Pence, who served as Trump's vice president from 2017 to 2021, previously described Trump administration's use of public health measure to effectively seal the U.S. southern border with Mexico during the COVID-19 pandemic as a Stephen Miller special. Okay. Under the policy known as Title 42, thousands of migrants and asylum seekers were turned away to dangerous Mexican border towns. Oh, no! Where they faced widespread violence, including rape, murder, and kidnappings. I certainly don't want anyone to be murdered or raped or kidnapped. I don't want that to happen, but I don't want them coming in here. Come in legally. Come in legally. He also frequently uses extreme rhetoric to attack migrants, telling a Trump campaign rally in New York last month that America is for Americans and Americans only, which is true. If Al Jazeera, which is a pretty left-wing organization, is saying they don't like Stephen Miller, and they certainly seem to be portraying him as some kind of heartless racist, that's probably a sign that he's pretty good. I'm not going to kid you. Excuse me. Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin is the guy that Sebastian Gorka was intimating was going to be his vice presidential pick. He happens to be, he was a former opponent of Kathy Hochul running. He was a former member of the House from, I believe, if I recall, that his district was Long Island. So Long Island is like, if you're unfamiliar with New York geography, basically you have New York City and then you got that little island sticking out there, which is it's a pretty rich area, and they lean more Republican. So he ran and almost beat Kathy Hochul in a surprise. It was surprising how close he came in beating Kathy Hochul in his run to be governor. Zeldin does not have any environmental experience, but he's been a loyal supporter of the president-elect. I happen to be a fan of Lee Zeldin. I like him. Former U.S. congressman from New York, pledged to support Trump's plan to deregulate approvals of energy extraction and cut down on regulatory red tape. In a post on X, Zeldin said it was an honor to take up the post. It's an honor to have you, brother. We will restore U.S. energy dominance, revitalize our auto industry to bring back American jobs, make the U.S. global leader of AI. We will do so while protecting access to clean air and water. This is a great pick. Big fan of it, like I said, big fan of Lee Zeldin. During his campaign, Trump criticized the Biden government's support for electric vehicles and restrictions on oil and gas drilling. He also often used the phrase drill, baby, drill. Drill. We're going to drill, baby, drill, to describe his new administration's approach to petroleum exploration. Zeldin, quote, will set new standards in environmental review and maintenance that will allow the United States to grow in a healthy and well-structured way. So there you go. There you go. Those are your appointments so far. Hope that answered your question. In addition, more about the Trump agenda, which was very exciting news for most of us, myself included, was this announcement from President Donald Trump. It came out, it was released today.
And one other thing I'll be doing very early in the administration is closing up the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., and sending all education and education work and needs back to the states. We want them to run the education of our children.
Do it yourself.
Because they'll do a much better job of it.
Yep.
You can't do worse.
Can't.
We spend more money per pupil by 3 times than any other nation, and yet we're absolutely at the bottom. We're one of the worst. So you can't do worse. We're going to end education coming out of Washington, D.C. We're going to close it up, all those buildings all over the place, and you have people that in many cases hate our children. We're going to send it all back to the states. Thank you very much. And one other thing.
So just to let you know, in case you're wondering, you'd be like, wait, how can we teach our kids without a Department of Education? How's that going to happen? How will that happen? Is he telling the truth there that we used to be better? Well, as recently as 20 years ago, the United States was ranked, according to history.net, number 1 in high school and college education. Much of the boom in American education during the second half of the 20th century was fueled by the Montgomery GI Bill, which provided scholarships and student loans to veteran service personnel. Yeah, okay. In 2009, the United States was ranked 18th out of 36 industrialized nations. Over that time, complacency and inefficiency, reflective of lower priorities in education and inconsistencies among the various school systems contribute to the decline. That's not what the problem was. History.net. Yeah, we used to be number 1. I found another article which was saying in the 60s and 70s we were consistently number 1. That's not the case anymore. As reported by thebalancedmoney.com, U.S. education ranking compared to other countries today. U.S. isn't investing as much in human capital as other developed countries. Its comparative advantage has fallen behind as a result, particularly with respect to education rankings. This is one of the things that these elitists don't understand. This is one of the things they don't understand. When the family structure crumbles, education crumbles. If you continually assault the family structure, you encourage divorce. If you're and there's rampant drug usage. When the family structure crumbles, education crumbles. People talk about, different types of privileges. The left always loves talking about white privilege, patriarchy, all these different privileges that these different intersectionalities purportedly have. They're all crap for the most part, but there are a handful of privileges that do exist. And one of the most paramount privileges you can have is a 2-parent privilege. There is such a thing as an American privilege. That's 100% true. And that's obvious if you think about it for even a glimmer of a second. Because if you live in America, you are far, far, far more fortunate person than if you're born in Africa, in Central Africa, or if you're born in the Far East, in one of the non-industrialized sections thereof. You're far wealthier if we consider your standard of living as to what your expectations are excessively higher. Your freedoms are far greater. It's not even comparable. Your your life expectancy, your job, your safety, everything about your life is much easier if you're just born in America. But if you're amongst Americans, having two parents in a even modestly healthy family environment is such a massive advantage. Such a massive advantage. And the statistics show if you come from a one parent home, you're far more likely to be incarcerated, have drug issues, just everything about your life. Does that mean that there aren't people who thrive despite those obstacles? Of course, that's not true.
I just gotta say something.
I didn't
y'all.
want that at all.
Y'all. I just went to the fucking store, y'all. I'm sick as a dog. I could not breathe last night. My nose fucking stopped up. Like, I swear to God.
But the point is that there are a lot of different kinds of advantages. You want to know why it is that America is struggling today? It's really simple. Our family structure has crumbled. It's crumbled. So, yeah. But anyhow, it's not about Department of Education. It's not about funding. That's one of the things the left loves to pretend that if we throw more money at the problem, the problem's going to go away. It's just crap. It's not proven anywhere. Quite the contrary. There's a lot of evidence that the more you spend per student does little than a lot of the places where they spend the most per pupil, that they have the biggest struggles imaginable. You need kids who are motivated and inspired to actually work in school. You need a culture which is going to encourage them to be successful in school rather than discourage that as something that's for losers. All of these things contribute to the likelihood of success. It's common sense. You don't even need to you have to just stop denying the obvious and you recognize it. Look at any charts or statistics examining the social sciences, and study after study all confirm what common sense would dictate. Top 5 math scoring countries in 2022 or in Asia. That's racist. U.S. students' math scores remain steady since 2003. As science scores have been about the same since 2006. And basically sucky. That's pretty much what they're trying to say. U.S. scored 465 in math, below OECD average of 472, and well below the scores of the top 5, all of which were in Asia. China was not included in this ranking because only 4 provinces participated. U.S. scored 499 in science, above the OECD average of 485, still well below the top 5 schools. Basically, it's been pretty much a failure. So turn it back to the States. In the 60s and 70s, we were really fine. We had no Department of Education. Department of Education is a beast that was created by Jimmy Carter. Before Jimmy Carter, there was no such thing as Department of Education. We did fairly well. We were okay. Things were pretty strong, by and large. By the by, we don't need to have it. It's more glut. It's more waste. And God bless Donald Trump for removing that. One less headache to worry about. So I think that's a phenomenal move on his part. I want to catch up on super chats, and then I want to start getting in with y'all about the finger pointing, because that's fun. Finger pointing is fun. They're so mad. Oh, buddy. They're so mad. They're so mad, and they're trying to figure out what went wrong. What went wrong? Why did everything go wrong on us? What went wonky on us? Ed 2276 is back. He's back. I remember that 2276. He's back as a YouTube member. Welcome back, Ed. Good to see you. Karen, Scott Presser wants to tackle New Jersey in 2025. Oh, don't I know it? Don't I know it? I already responded to that by saying, I'm in New Jersey. Tell me what you need from me. I'm here. I'd love to go door to door with him. Bring out the vote. Border towns like the other side of the wall. That's precisely right. You nailed it. It's unreal. I'm ecstatic. These choices make me wonder, will they accept Trump and his government? What is the left's next move? How far will they go? I think that's part of what I'm going to be covering in the finger point. They don't know what to do. They're very, very lost. They're very, very lost. All they have right now is the filibuster in the Senate. They have basically 7 senators to hold the fort. I mean, they have 47, so they need to keep 41 of them together. That's basically what they have to stop the right from doing whatever the hell it wants. But they are freaked out, and they're trying to figure it out, and they have no clue, just no comprehension at all, why things went the way they went. They're just completely and utterly just beside themselves. Hope the picks get better. So far, very disappointed, especially Rubio. True, sorry, but only have 4 years. Can't afford misses. We don't know anything about Rubio. What are you all talking about with Rubio? I don't listen to rumors. What rumors am I missing that you're all freaking out? I'm gonna check Rubio in the news, see what everyone's talking about. For Secretary of State, I don't think he's choosing him. I don't want to see Rubio. God help us, it's Rubio. I agree with you. That would be a terrible, terrible decision. You're sitting here saying you hope they get better. This is the one that hasn't been announced yet that you're assuming is set in stone. Relax. You want to scream about Rubio online? I have no problem about that. In order to help keep Rubio from actually, dissuade those in Trump's inner circle who certainly have their ear to the ground about what public opinion is, to try and bash Marco Rubio. I think that's well invested efforts. I'm totally fine with that. But don't get outraged as if it's happened. But NBC News is reporting that is expected to nominate Senator Marco Rubio of Florida for Secretary of State in his administration in the coming days, according to 3 sources familiar with the selection process. Trump could still change his mind, the sources caution, noting the decision wouldn't be finalized until he makes a formal announcement. This is a way of saying, I think I have really important information for you, but it may not be proved to be accurate because he could change his mind, which means I'm really not telling you anything at all. I'm not telling you anything at all. It's literally saying nothing. So relax. Relax. But I don't like Rubio either. It's classic. Wonderful educational policy. Leave it to the states. Yeah, it's like what there's a 10th Amendment. I think out there. There's a 10th Amendment. It's still in existence. We never ended up wiping that one away. Speaking of which, I was talking yesterday about the border czar, and someone asked me. I had a really great question that I was asked yesterday. Some of you might be wondering about the viability when you talk about leave it to the states and the rule of law and the Constitution. Someone named Moffat, who was a big-time supporter of this show. He's a big-time supporter of this show. I know this because whenever I tweet, he's one of the first people to notice it. So I know he's a big-time supporter of the show. And he DM'd me a really good question last night, which I think a lot of you might be wondering about also. So, and this is a legal question about Trump's objectives here. Angela's telling me she can't chat on YouTube. I don't know. Why can't you chat on YouTube? Are you kept out? I'll just see if I can. That bothers me. You should be able to chat on YouTube. I don't know. All right. Hold on one second. I know that not being able to talk on YouTube sucks, and I want to look at what's happening here on this. Let me do a quick check here. Customization settings, community, hidden users. Let's see if I can notice her. I don't see her in the ban list here. Don't see her. Not seeing her. Nope. 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 I don't see her there. We should be able to talk. I don't think it's me. I don't think it's my channel. So the question that he asked me was this. Oh, saying it's fixed. Oh, that's good. Okay. The question I was asked was by Cage Warren Moffat. I want to share this with you because a lot of you might be having the same question. The question he asked me was this. These are legal questions about Trump's policies. Hi, Joe. I heard and understood your explanation. I study you perceived it was merely meant 30-second overview. The office still often. Okay, whatever. President Trump said he will use an executive order to stop birthright citizenship. He's going to issue an EO to stop birthright citizenship. Is that legally possible if he declares illegal border crossings as an invading army? So can you call the illegal border crossings an invading army and then write an EO to say that any of their kids who are born here do not attain citizen status? That's a really interesting question. Perhaps you're explained. I went to the bathroom or something. I did not. I hadn't addressed it anywhere. I don't expect you to answer here. I just couldn't afford to answer you too. Okay, whatever. So thanks for what you do. God bless you and yours. I told him that Jews are notorious for answering a question with a question. So I asked him this. If an illegal alien comes in and earns money, does she or he owe the federal government taxes? So what's your answer to that question? A legal alien comes in here and they earn money here. Do you think that they owe taxes? And he said, yeah, I think so. And I was like, I agree. I think that they owe taxes also. That's significant when in relation to his question, meaning can a president keep someone from attaining citizen status by issuing an EO? And the problem that he would have is if you look at the 14th Amendment, it expressly says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. They're citizens. This is Constitution. You can't argue with the Constitution. Can't argue with the Constitution. And it says, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Now, bear in mind, the 14th Amendment was basically passed shortly after the Civil War for the purposes of ensuring that people who were slaves, children and things of that nature, that they wouldn't be denied citizenship status. Point being that they are citizens. The reason I asked him that question is because one of the key elements is that it says, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So the qualifications to automatically gain citizenship is if you're born here and you're subject to the jurisdiction. What does that mean, subject to the jurisdiction? What the hell does that mean? Well, that means that, you got to pay taxes. You're subject to the jurisdiction. That makes you a citizen of the United States. So on what basis would Trump be able to keep them out from attaining their citizenship status? You can't just write an EO that disregards the Constitution. That's not going to work. That's never going to fly in Supreme Court. Nor should it. We shouldn't want it to work. Yeah, we have to have certain guidelines as to, where there are checks and balances to what someone can do. A president who's going to just write some EO that completely disregards the Constitution sounds retarded. That's ridiculous. That should never work that way, no matter who the president is. I don't care if it's Donald Trump. Doesn't matter. You can't disregard the Constitution. Now, the response that Mr. Moffat made back to me, which I thought was an interesting response, was, well, if you declare them an invading army, the same way if an invading army came in here, there are certain people who are not considered subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Perhaps an invading army wouldn't be deemed that way. Because who are we excluding with subject to jurisdiction thereof? Arguably, Native Americans living on a reservation are arguably not Americans, not American citizens, which is pretty funny. And let's say a child of a diplomat born, is arguably not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Certainly, if he's born in territory that's been deigned for a foreign state, is arguably not a citizen, because they're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So those persons will be excluded. Would an invading army, imagine an invading army comes in here and they have men and women in the army, they march on in here and they take over portions, and then some of the women give birth here. Would they be considered American citizens? And they're certainly not subject to the jurisdiction. So I thought that was an interesting question he was asking. And I'll tell you that it's possible, although I tend to doubt it. My gut says he's not going to be able to stop any of them from being labeled citizens by the Supreme Court. I expect it's not something that I can tell you has been adjudicated. And as I've said several times in the show, and I likely will say many, many times in the future, any issue of law that has never been decided by a court, it is imprudent to say this is the law, because all you basically have is similar type of scenarios at best that you could juxtapose and compare it to, or legal theory and philosophy as to what's philosophically sound and logical given the wording of the law, which is highly speculative. You don't know. You're guessing, and if you're saying you're saying so that you sound educated and like you have a resounding force of this is the law, but you're basically full of crap because you don't know. If you can't cite to a precedent, you don't know. So all you can do is speculate. With that in mind, my speculation is anyone who was born before he passes the EO, even if he retroactively says they're an invading army, if he says they're an invading army, anyone born beforehand, I cannot imagine that some EO that a president signs would serve to influence or impact anyone who is conferred citizenship status before the EO, a day before, a week before, a month before, 2-3 years before. I cannot believe that any of them would thereby be cut off and lose their citizenship status as a result of him signing an EO in the face of the 14th Amendment. I don't see that happening. I cannot imagine. I would be shocked if a court would issue such a ruling. And frankly, if I was a judge in a court, I wouldn't sign off on that. You need to show me a lot of really strong case law precedent to make me even consider it. And I still probably don't think I would. This is just, you can't retroactively take away their citizenship. There's a blessing of citizenship, American privilege. And if that's what the Constitution says, and this is what we all agreed to over a century and a half ago, that's what we got to work with. You can't change the law just because you don't like the impact of it. And even though I don't like the impact, I think the impact sucks. It's terrible. You can't start changing the law just because we don't like the way it's operating in this particular circumstance. So if you ask me as a judge, I'll tell you right now, I haven't researched it any more than I basically shared with you all my knowledge on it. But based on what I know about it so far, anyone who was born before the EO, I would definitely say no. Now the question comes, once he signs the EO, would that stop someone who's born a day after the EO, a week after, a month after, a year after? Would that stop that newborn from attaining citizenship status? Would it serve to do that based on the fact that that is the offspring of an invading army? I would tell you that even that is a very tough sell. It's a very tough sell. First, we need to establish definitively that an invading army, someone born, is always necessarily considered non-American status and not under the subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Then you have to overcome other hurdles, which is that, hey, we have the power to arrest these people. They're subject to our jurisdiction. So even if you want to consider the mass as a total an invading army, to say that this individual illegal alien is not subject to American jurisdiction sounds insane to me. It doesn't sound logical because, okay, as a mass, I get it. But to say that this individual, and I understand that a mass is comprised of millions of individuals. I understand philosophically how that works. But the reality is, in order to deny them citizenship status, you need to say that they are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Well, let's say he never signs that EO. Let's pretend that talk about the EO is crap. Okay, let's just pretend that for a moment. Okay, he changes his mind, says, "Yeah, I don't want to sign this EO." Are you going to tell me that you're arguing that that person is not subject to American jurisdiction? Really? Really? Well, let's say he would say they're an invading army, but anyone born is still a citizen. So now, are you going to come to me with an argument and say, oh, no, they're not subject to American jurisdiction? Really? So what? You can't throw them in prison? They don't have to pay federal taxes? They don't pay state taxes? I think every one of you would say, obviously, they have to pay for the state taxes. Obviously, if they commit a crime, we can throw them in prison. That individual who commits a crime here should be thrown in prison. Well, if all those things happen, in that case, I'm sorry. To me, that sounds like they're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. If they're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, a kid that they have born to them, under the 14th Amendment, I don't know how you get around it. I hate that I have to come to this conclusion, but I think intellectual integrity and reasonableness as to how a reasonable interpretation of the Constitution, to me, reads this way. I didn't write the 14th Amendment. I didn't word it this way, but given how it's worded, that's how I would call it. Just telling you. I hate that that's how I have to call it, but that's the reality. That's what it says. That's what the law says. I thought it was a really interesting discussion as to, like, can he stop someone from attaining a newborn from attaining citizenship status based on how he classifies them? To me, I don't think he can. Certainly, it would not work retroactively to any kid born before the EO. But I think even anyone born after the EO, that kid and the kid's mother, they're all subject to American jurisdiction. And he's born here in the United States. Those are the only two requirements you need. That's my take on it. But I'd love to hear your take on it. Drop a comment down below. If you think I'm misreading this or whatever, you think I'm wrong, don't just say I'm wrong because you don't like the outcome I'm reaching. Like give me a philosophical basis to say, no, here's where you're missing something. It's possible I am. That's where I'm at right now. I thought it was a really interesting question. So I appreciate Cage bringing that to my attention. It's good. It's a really good question. Really interesting topic. Go for Big Eyes saying, Rubio for Secretary of State. Why is he pulling from the House and Senate when we have such slim majorities as it is? We're going to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, aren't we? They lose their status as a member of the House. If Elise Stefanik becomes an ambassador to the UN, she's no longer a member of the House. I think she's still a member of the House. Secretary of State, I don't know. Secretary of State Senator, though. So I don't know if they lose their status there. I don't think they do. It's a good question, though. It might depend on the nature of the role. We're always swirling Alex Jones for Secretary of State for a time. That's great trolling for the left. Oh my God, they'd freak out just seeing something like that. This lunatic's gonna get us all killed. John Kirk kind of shut down the Rubio rumor 1 minute ago. Look at that. I told you stop worrying about this stuff. Let me see. Thank God. Let's see what he's saying on that. Charlie Kirk, thank you for calling that to my attention, General. Oh, you're talking about this post? Folks, words of wisdom. Trump hasn't confirmed on truth. Don't jump to conclusions and don't believe everything you see. It's probably referencing the Rubio